Well, if you didn't know it, the Brothers Sewing Machine Company came on the scene right around 1908. And it was founded by, and I'm going to totally mess this guy's name up, but it was founded by Kaneki Yashii. Yeah, that's about as close as I can get. And he started building the company, and they released their first Japanese manufactured chain stitch machine right around 1928. And this was not one individual alone, but it was actually two brothers, which a lot of people don't talk about. The Lachille brothers successfully mass produced the first sewing machine, achieving their dream of domestic production. Yeah, some facts I haven't shared with you before about the Brothers Sewing Machine Company. And they continued to grow in the 1950s, expanding in the US and Europe, and using their precision press molding and motor tech to diversify also into typewriters, knitting machines, and home appliances. I've never seen a Brother home appliance, so if anyone has, let me know. But that's super cool. Yeah, and they continue to grow today, don't they? Producing household style machines, not quite at the caliber of this one. The ones that they offer typically are going to be, I call them the disposable ones. Let me step past the camera real quick, and I'll bring our music to a close for a little bit. So now Brother is really in the business of producing what I would refer to as disposable sewing machines. They're making machines predominantly for retailers like Walmart and sewing centers, of course, as well. And they certainly do have higher end ones like this that they're making, but the majority of them are usually at the entry level, probably between $99 to $400 or $500 might be a benchmark for them in most of their retail locations. And they're really looking for that sewist that does occasional mending. And if the machine only lasts about a year or so, that sewist probably isn't going to care very much. They'll go out and buy another one. Well, the machine in front of you today that was co-sponsored by the Disney Corporation, and they gave Brother exclusive access to some of their proprietary characters, their intellectual property. You can see some of that flashing up on the screen over here. They really developed an incredibly special machine, and the owner of this out of Corbin, Kentucky. Her first name is Faye. This was the last gift that her late husband gave her. So if you can imagine how special this sewing machine is, it's not just a sewing machine, it's a remembrance, it's a celebration, it's jubilation with lots of stitches of remembering the love that she had and has for her late husband. And having gone through this machine from bobbin to balance wheel and from balance wheel to bobbin, I can tell you that it is a very special machine. Whenever something is going to be stamped indirectly with the Disney logo, the Disney mark, Disney is incredibly protective of their reputation. And so I could tell that Brother went to the far ends of the universe to make sure that this machine was built well and that it would be a lasting machine. Now, does anyone know approximately when this machine would have come on the scene? When would this machine have come on the scene? Type it in the live chat if you know. And if you need to look it up, it's totally cool. I had to look it up because I had never worked specifically on this model before. And I hope I don't get a nasty note from brother, but the way I pronounce it is the Innovis Model 1500D. And if anyone wants to Google what does Innovis mean, I didn't do that. I'd be curious to know what Innovis means. Maybe there's something significant about that word. But this machine is built very, very sturdily. And I shared countless pictures with Faye as I was going through this machine. And she was like, I had no idea of the intricacy of that machine. And it's apparent, she suggested, that where I got it serviced last, they missed a lot. And that's a common thing, isn't it? When you look at workshop magic and the depth that I go into machines, and you compare it to what other folks are doing out there, and they're calling it a full comprehensive service, far from that. Far, far from that. Machines, whether they're a slightly newer machine like this one, someone might call it a very, 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 very young vintage machine, probably not even vintage. But what they're doing to those machines, whether they're contemporary quilting machines that are $10,000 or whether they're household machines that were a couple $100, I'll tell you one thing, every machine deserves greatness. And that's why I do things the way I do them. That's why a machine like this would go to a sew and vac, and Faye would be able to circle back in a couple of hours when in fact they probably only spent about 45 minutes to an hour on the machine. We saw that on the Swiss machine too that I presented recently that belongs to Jennifer. She had paid someone around $50 at a festival or at a sewing, whatever it was. And when I showed her the progress pictures in depth, she was like, man, oh man, what did they do? They didn't do much of anything. But, like I said, brother is in the business of still making some great machines, even today, some real expensive ones. Susie and I saw some of them at a quilting store recently. We walked through there and it was like, wow, that's a lot of zeros. So does anyone want to throw a guess out there as to this very special gift that Faye's husband got for her? And I assume it was probably a surprise. What would this machine have sold for back in the day? Type it in the live chat if you want to throw a guess out there. And I'm going to walk in front of the camera one more time, maybe two more times. Hold on. I've got little flies in the workshop right now that got in. And if you hear me swat at something through the live stream, I'm swatting these little flies and they bite too. Is anyone else experiencing those wherever you are in the country, around the world? Do you have these little flies? They kind of land on something and they go around in a circle like they're confused, which is great because you have a chance to swat them real quick. But yeah, needless to say, this is not a run-of-the-mill sewing machine. This was a big investment back in the day when Faye's husband got it for her. A big investment. All right, let me take a look real quick. Yeah, thank you to Susie and to thank you to Susie for typing in the names of these brothers that founded Brothers Sewing Machine Company, because I'm sure I'll get notes. We have lots of people that follow us over in Japan, and we've even shipped a machine to Japan to a U.S. Air Force service member. It's been many years ago, but we have a footprint over in Japan too. So I no doubt will get an email or maybe even a call from someone over in Japan saying, you totally decimated their names. So Susie's made it right now by posting them. So thanks for doing that, Susie. And it looks like Tim is saying that this model would have probably come on the scene around 2005. The research I got pointed closer to 2007, but AI searches now, sometimes they get it wrong. And so sometime in the early 2000s, whether it was 2005, which is what Tim found, or 2007, which is what I found, the Brother Innova Model 1500D was a landmark combination sewing and embroidery machine that Brother came out with. So a lot of the machines that you see out there are exclusively sewing, exclusively quilting, exclusively embroidery. But Brother decided we're going to pool two different desirable sewing aspects together. And that way the sewists, whether they're wanting to do embroidery or traditional sewing, they can sit down to that machine and get it done. So I think that that was a unique thing to approach it that way and say, we're going to combine two very desirable things, embroidery and sewing, into one sewing machine. And then we're going to take it a step further. We're going to contact Disney and say, would you give us access to some of your proprietary intellectual property that we can program into the machine and create wonderful embroidery type masterpieces that would have a Disney theme to them. And somehow Brother and Disney met at the table and they came to terms. And this sewing machine is the evidence of that. And this particular machine, you can put programs into the side of it. You can, it's got a built-in USB. You can also connect a USB to the machine as well. And you can do digital designs and download software. And it works within an embroidery field of about 10 by 6 inches, making it one of the largest available fields in its class. And if no one guessed yet, this machine would have retailed back in the day for right around $3,000. Some venues may have had it a little bit higher. Some venues may have had it a little bit lower, but somewhere between $3,000 to $3,500 is what you would have dished out, is what Faye's husband would have dished out back in the day when he got this very, very special machine for his beloved wife. One of the big selling points of this machine as well, and it probably caught Faye's husband's eye, is that it has 129 built-in, officially licensed Disney embroidery designs alongside hundreds of other patterns and fonts. And we're going to put some of that to work today, but because we don't have the embroidery attachment on the machine, because it's not specifically set up to do that right now, we're going to be a little bit more limited in what we can present in this live stream. But I'm going to push this machine, like I always do, to the limit and give you a real taste, a real appetite for the good taste of Faye's husband in picking this machine for her as a special lasting gift. Yeah. I think that it's really a cool machine. And again, we're not going to be able to do it full justice during the live stream, but I'll do my best to really, really showcase the majesty of this machine that would have been made, as Tim said, in the early 2000s, 2005, 2007. A lot of companies will start to produce a product earlier on, and they'll hold it. This is notoriously in the cell phone market, where they'll make a phone and they'll hold it for 6 months to a year while they saturate the market with the existing one, and then they'll release it like, oh, we just got it done, when in fact they've been holding it in a warehouse secretively for 6 months to a year. And I'm sure that sewing machine companies do the same thing. So it's in all likelihood they started making this back in 2005, as Tim found, and then they finally released it around 2007, according to the AI search that I did. But it's a super cool machine, super cool machine. I want to circle back to something that I missed. I wanted to circle back to something that I missed There I go, blocking the camera again. I want to circle back to something I missed and celebrate again the sacrifice of our heroes for Memorial Day with a very special piece that Tim produced. If you didn't know it, our own Tim, Teresa's beloved, is an incredibly talented jingle writer. He's able to write jingles from practically anything, and he wrote a really cool jingle that I don't know how I missed it. It actually arrived where I could have shown it at the last live stream when I presented that Swiss sewing machine that belongs to Jennifer. I hadn't checked my email apparently, and so I missed it. And it's something that he produced to one of my favorite songs ever. I'll just shut up and play it. Hold on a second. Let me get it set up. So again, it's okay, I think, to celebrate Christmas all year long. I think it's okay to celebrate Memorial Day all year long as well because of the ultimate sacrifice these folks have given. And at any rate, here's Tim. Here's Tim. Hold on. Memorial Day. Remembering those who served and the price they paid. Because we love to be free. The blood our veterans shed is what made that be. Remember our heroes and their sacrifice for the freedom we cherish. They paid the price, and we'll try, oh Lord, we'll try to carry on. I don't know what you think, but I think Tim has a talent. Tim has a God-given talent to be able to come up with stuff like this. And that is the song. I'm blanking on the group. If Tim could type the name of the group in, but that is one of the few pieces, one of the first pieces that I learned how to play on piano. And sometimes in the evenings, I haven't done it for a long time, but sometimes in the evenings, I will sit down to the piano. The puppies will come over by me, and Susie will sit down in the room nearby, and I'll play some of my music on the piano, and oftentimes I launch into that particular song. What a fabulous song. And I want to thank Tim again. I want to thank Teresa for sharing so much with our family. And the same is true, obviously, of Jenny and Candido and others as well. Some others that we haven't seen for a while, like um, Bill O'Rourke down in Florida. We saw Paula Noel a while back, but we have so many special leaders in our family that make the difference in live streams like this, taking care of the family. And we are so much hoping that when Tim and Teresa retire soon, they're planning on coming to Kentucky to join us. And that'll be a real blessing to have those dear friends within reach where we can go out and break bread together. We can maybe even do some live streams together here in the workshop up in the mountains. And but thanks again to Tim for that special treat of honoring those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. Really was a blessing when I saw it, and then I kicked myself for not checking my email more diligently. But what a talent! What a great talent! All right, a little bit more music while I get a sip of tea, and then we're going to start jumping into things on Faye's machine. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop the music right there. I'm going to try to stop the music. Yeah, you're right. I could not remember the name Styx, but Styx did a lot of great music that I know that I enjoyed when I was growing up as a teenager in the 1970s. Styx and the Eagles and Foreigner and Supertramp, and the list goes on of the great music that we all had back in that day. And I know a lot of young people that will even tune in to the music that we listened to in the 70s and 80s because they said it's so much better than what we have now. Does anyone else feel that way? That the music that is being pumped out through the radios now on a lot of the channels, it just doesn't measure up, does it, to groups like Styx and a lot of those other ones. And all of you could name a lot of other groups that I didn't, that I would say, oh, yeah, I remember them. And we used to collect albums, didn't we? I had a slew of albums and 45s. And what was that other record size? It was between a 45. What was the bigger one? I can't remember. At any rate, I remember a couple of Christmases ago, before I even met Susie, Bill and I were wanting to exchange some gifts together for the holidays. And he mailed me that really cool jukebox. I've shown that to you before, and I'm not going to play anything on it because every time I do that, as a matter of fact, I'll probably have this live stream flagged as well for copyright because of playing the Styx song, but I don't care. That's fine. But Bill sent me this really cool electronic jukebox. I've shown it before around the holidays. And I mailed him a contemporary type record player. I showed pictures of it to Susie and to Emma and others, I believe. It was kind of a aqua blue color, kind of you'd expect to see it like in a diner. And he said that was the best Christmas ever, that he had a bunch of albums that he wasn't able to play because he didn't have a record player. And then that showed up. And record players and records are kind of on a rebound, aren't they? You probably have seen them in retailers and other places like that. And all these young folks are now thinking that it's a new thing, not realizing that vinyl's been around forever. So, at any rate, I digress. But it's so much fun to listen to great music, isn't it? It's so much fun to listen to great music. Now, in the opening scenes of this live stream, you saw a really cool, curious cow in the harp space of Faye's brother's sewing machine. I'm going to show them to you again. I'll kind of tilt him this way a little bit. There he is. See if I can give you a real good front shot of him. So this curious little cow, when I recently traveled to meet TJ's dad down in Middlesboro. Again, TJ has a disability and she's not always able to drive. She's not comfortable driving. And so he came as the dad to pick up the two machines that I just resurrected that had been, the one had been fried by an electrical surge. The other one had come from Facebook Marketplace and had all kinds of issues. At any rate, long and short of it is I'm helping him load the sewing machines into his car. And he said, TJ wanted to give you something special in gratitude for going the extra mile. Going the extra mile is going around the universe to bring grandma's machine back to a working condition so that she could continue enjoying using it. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. But I was so touched by that because TJ, as part of her community outreach, because she's not able to get out there physically as much anymore with her disability, she makes stuffed animals like this cute little guy here, and she makes baby quilts for hurricane disaster relief. She makes all kinds of things and doesn't sell them, doesn't put them up on Etsy, doesn't profit from it. She gives them away because she's so grateful to have the ability to create using the sewing machines that she has, particularly Grandma Bev's machine that I was able to resurrect. So this is a new friend in the workshop. If someone wants to help me name him, I would think that would be totally cool. But Tatiana Juliet, TJ, is the creator of this cute little guy. So if anyone has a name, type it in the live chat. And yeah, we'll start referring to him. He's going to pop up in other live streams as well. And, just posing with the machines. He might come floating across the screen. You never know. But again, a special thank you to TJ, a special thank you to her dad for the opportunity of being able to touch that family with the skills that I have to bring those machines back into a working condition again. So, all right, little guy, I got to put you away. Ha ha. Oh, yeah, 78. 78 is a larger record. That's right. 78. 45s and 78s. 45s and 78s. I remember that. All right, let me walk you around this machine a little bit. Again, it's an embroidery and a sewing machine, all built into one. We're going to be doing some decorative stitching today. We're going to be doing some utility stitching today. We're not going to be doing any of the embroidery stitching because, again, it's not set up to do that right now. So you'll get at least a taste of what this Walt Disney sponsored Brother machine can do. And yeah, maybe you'll go out there on the hunt like you oftentimes do after I present a machine, and you'll add a machine like this to your personal collection. But let's walk around the machine a little bit and just kind of take a look at things, the lay of the land, if you will, and then we'll put her to use, okay? So we'll start on this end over here. Actually, I'll back the camera up a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to knock it over. We'll back the camera up a little bit, and I'll take off this little caddy free arm extension. I'm going to pull this off. And obviously, it's got a very, very large, super large free arm. It's not going to be a free arm that's going to be, conducive to doing children's clothes or something that's really, really tight. It's got a rather broad free arm, but it has a free arm nonetheless. So it gives you an opportunity to certainly use it for certain applications like that. I'm going to see if I can find my tape measure. I know I've got it around here somewhere. I'll give you a couple of measurements on this machine so you kind of know what the measurements of this Brother 1500 D is. I usually don't measure the free arm, but what the heck, I'll measure it anyway. About 3.5 inches across, 3.5 inches right here. Between the needle and the pillar, we'll kind of look at that harp space where that cute little cow was hanging out. So between the needle and the harp space for quilting and turning wider type materials, you're looking at right around 8.5 inches, 8.5 inches from needle to pillar. And then the width of the machine, as best as I can get it, it's going to be right around 8.5 inches as well. And the height between the bed of the machine and the bottom of the arm is going to be right around 5.75 inches. 5.75 inches. So from a measurement standpoint, this is a machine that you can really, really, I hope I see another fly. Hold on. There we go. I got him. This is a machine that you can really do bulkier projects on. It's not just a machine that is, for the delicate embroidery type stitching. Like this one, I think I showed this to you guys before. It's a Janome that we have right now from the Senior Center in La Follette, Tennessee. They want our help in fixing it, setting it up, and then ultimately helping them sell it on this channel, and then ship it or have someone pick it up because they're not able to use it at the Senior Center anymore. And it was a machine that was originally purchased for probably around 6 grand, $6,000 or $7,000. I'll see if I can just show it to you real quick over here. Now, this is a die-hard embroidery style machine here by Janome. It's an MB4, and it's got this additional add-on right here with the programming and the embroidery screen as well. And eventually I'm going to get this thing up and going and running, and then I'll present it to all of you and offer it for sale on behalf of the Senior Center of La Follette, Tennessee. And it's going to come with all the embroidery hoops and all of that as well. So, and I also bought extra bobbin cases for it, bobbins, needles, the whole shebang. So it's going to be a turnkey. It's going to be a turnkey embroidery machine that could become a very profitable business for someone, a home-based business, very profitable if they decide to bid on it eventually when it's offered. But I wanted to do just a quick little showcase because that real fancy machine over there that was probably 6 or 7 grand originally is strictly an embroidery machine, but it does it really well. It does it really, really well. So I gave you the measurements on that. On the back side of here is the feed dog drop. It's a little lever you can slide, so you can drop the feed dogs on here for freehand quilting or free motion embroidery type stuff. It's got a drop-in bobbin, and I wanted to talk about the bobbin real quick before I jump into sewing, because when I got this machine from Faye, it had this bobbin in it right here with this real fancy embroidery floss on it. I don't know if you can see that at all. It's got this real, I mean, it's super, super fine embroidery floss. And it's probably really high-end stuff. But when I looked at the profile of the bobbin in relation to it being, there's another one of those little flies again. He's tormenting me. He's like, I know you're doing a live stream. I'm going to fly right in front of you while you're trying to present. But I looked at the profile of this bobbin in relation to the bobbin case in the machine, and it looked like it was a little too short. So Susie helped me to print a kind of an abridged version of the manual for this machine, because when Faye sent it with me, I didn't have a manual for the machine. So Susie printed this quick reference guide, and we're not going to post the link right now, but we'll post any links that Susie has for this machine right at the end of the live stream. We'll present them at the end of the live stream. Susie will throw them into the live chat, and that way, if anyone at the end of the live stream wants to download the manual, they can do that. But this quick reference thing that Susie printed gave a lot of good insight into this machine, because again, I've worked with thousands and thousands of Brothers sewing machines, from industrial, commercial to household, but I never worked specifically on this model. And so I wanted to make sure that I understood the model as best as I could to present it in the live stream. And when I got to this page right here on page 2, it gave a picture of the bobbin that the machine should have, and it gave the measurements. And the measurements it gave didn't match up with the bobbin that was in the machine. According to the manual, the bobbin should have a profile height of about 11.5 millimeters. I don't know if you can see that in the shot. I'm looking over my shoulder at the laptop. Is that focusing? I can't tell. I can't tell if that's focusing or not. The camera's being naughty. There we go. So hopefully you can see that. So the bobbin up there, it's showing that it should be about 11.5 millimeters. Well, the bobbin that was in the machine that Faye was using, I'll use my mechanical caliper here. This particular one that was in the machine, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera or not, but it was about 9 millimeters. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's about 9 millimeters. You can see it right up there on top. The one that Faye was using in the machine was about 9 millimeters tall, which was about 2.5 millimeters shorter than it's supposed to be. And it may have been from another machine. Who knows? I don't know where this bobbin came from, but according to the owner's manual, it's the wrong bobbin. So I researched the Janome bobbins, and I found out that this machine runs really well with the Class 15J bobbins. The Class 15J bobbins. And so I'm going to send a bunch of these back with a machine. We'll be meeting Faye later today. I'm going to send a bunch of these bobbins back with a machine so Faye can put the other ones to the side that are too short and can use these Class 15J Janome bobbins. These are actually from Janome specifically. And you'll notice that as the book dictates, grab the book. As the book dictates, if you can see that in the shot, I don't know if you can or not. These Class J bobbins, Class 15J bobbins, are exactly 11.5 millimeters. So if you've got a machine like Faye's, this INNOVIS Model 1500 D that was sponsored by Disney for the Brother Company, I would recommend highly that if you don't have the original bobbins, or over time the plastic bobbins will get rough edges. They kind of chip up a little bit and they get rough edges and they don't turn as well in the machine anymore. If you're going to replace them, buy directly from Janome or buy a Janome specific product. It's going to look something like this. See if I can show it to you. Something like that. It'll actually say Janome on it. It's not an aftermarket. And again, just make sure that they're going to be about 11.5 millimeters in their profile height. And then they'll operate very nicely in this machine. A little bit about the setup today. I'm not going to be using embroidery thread. I'm not going to be using an embroidery needle. Does that surprise you at all? I'm such a rebel. I always set the machine up for success, but I set it up to struggle a little bit. So we're actually going to be using a Schmetz quilting needle, today to do our stitching. It's going to be a size 75/11. Yes, I'm using a quilting needle to do embroidery type stitching and utility stitching. And I'm going to be using a Coats & Clark dual duty XP thread. I'm not going to be using embroidery thread. I'm not going to be using embroidery floss. Faye has some of this lovely, and I don't know a lot about embroidery. I'm just going to tell you that, but I'm guessing that this is a pretty high-end embroidery thread by Florinia or something like that. This is what Faye had on the machine. You can see that. But I'm not going to be using this thread. I'm going to be using my standard thread, because when Brother built this machine, they built it for basic sewing and also embroidery. So since I'm using it more on the end of basic sewing and decorative sewing, I'm setting the machine up as if I'm doing that type of sewing. I'm not going to be doing embroidery type stitching with this machine today. Okay. So let me do this real quick before I jump into things. Oh, and I didn't do a lot of sew-offs with this machine, but I'll just show you some of the stuff I did, and we'll replicate some of this again. I did Faye's name. You can see that right there with some of the decorative stitching options. Did some nice 3-point zigzags, straight stitching, regular zigzag. Yeah, and just a couple little decorative type stitches over here as well. So you can kind of see that and get a feel for that as well. And what I found about this machine, and it's not a criticism, it's just an observation, is this machine really was built with the idea of doing embroidery work. You're going to be doing shirts, you're going to be doing hats, you're going to be doing jackets or whatever you're going to be doing embroidery on. When you're doing embroidery work, that top stitching has to be spot on. that top stitching has to be drop dead gorgeous. And you can use a variety of different colors, obviously, as well when you're doing specialized embroidery type stitching. But the lock stitching doesn't have to be exactly up to that same grade. It's going to be acceptable. It's going to be secure. But I noticed when I was stitching with this machine that no matter how many adjustments I made, no matter how many times I fine-tuned the machine, the top stitching always looked a little bit better than the lock stitching. It looked a little bit better. So I just want to point that out to begin with as we go through different stitch offs, that I'll show you the lock stitching, but with this being a machine that was really built with the hobbyist embroidery type minded person in place, and they were going to be looking at doing beautiful embroidery patterns that would be on display, kind of like this Hard Rock Cafe one on my shirt right here. I don't know if you can see that or not. They don't care about what the stitching looks like on the back of this shirt that I'm wearing. They care about what the stitching and the pattern looks like on the front of it, right? And that's the nature of embroidery work, is you're not always going to have a beautiful thing on the back side of it, but you're going to have a beautiful top stitch generally from a machine like this, even though I'm using a quilting needle. So I'll walk you around the machine just a little bit more, and then we'll jump into this and get this machine going to work. And I think for purposes of sewing, I'll put this this little caddy back on. It's got a wonderful little storage area for the extra feet. It's got a storage area for extra bobbins. I'll put some of those class 15 J bobbins in here for Faye, so that she has the right bobbins in here. It's got extra feet over here as well that don't fit in all these little slots. It's got little cubby spaces underneath here as well that you can go into. It's got an extra little cubby space over here for additional bobbins, or possibly spools of embroidery thread if you want to put those in there as well. So it's got a lot of storage capacity that slides right onto the machine, and also it gives you a little bit more workspace as well, doesn't it? Gives you a little bit more workspace. So I'm going to slide that back into place. And I don't know if we'll switch out feet or not during the live stream. The screen will show me, depending on the stitch that we're doing, the screen will show me what foot it recommends that I use. But being a rebel, I don't know if I'll switch the foot or not. I might not. So, but again, if you've got one of these machines, just double check your bobbins. And if you don't have a mechanical caliper like this or similar to this, let Susie and I know that, and we'll do a contest again like we did recently, and we'll give some more of these mechanical calipers away. They're not only good for measuring bobbins, you can use them to measure motor brushes and a variety of other things in our sewing space. So I highly recommend, if you don't have one of these, that you try to win one for free from this channel, or you go out and buy one at your hardware store and support a local business. But they're a wonderful, wonderful tool to have. And they come in all different types of flavors and shapes. I've got one that's a lot less compact, like this. Quite honestly, I don't like it as much. I don't like this one as much, but it's fancier looking. They've got electronic ones where you zero in on something and it has a digital display of exactly what the millimeters are, the thousandths of an inch or whatever. There's all kinds of flavors of these calipers, and they're a wonderful, wonderful tool to have. So keep watch for that. Remind us, that we should do some more giveaways, and maybe you'll win one. I've mailed a bunch of them out over the years. They're a wonderful tool to have. Okay, so enough blah, blah, blah. Let's go over by this machine and take a little closer look. So the one thing I really like I like a number of things about this INNOVIS 1500D that Faye's husband gave her. But I love these easy access buttons right here. If you don't have the foot controller plugged in, you can start the machine with this button right here. You can very easily go in reverse. You can do needle up, needle down. You can cut the thread right here. And last but not least, you can lower and raise the presser foot with this button right here. This is I think, a very, very cool and unique feature on this Innovis 1500D, because then you don't necessarily need to have a pressure foot lift lever right there. You don't need to have it. You just hit this button and that pressure foot will go up or down as you need it. And then you've got a speed control right here. Wherever you set this speed control, that is the governor. That's the max for your foot control. So you can push, if you have it right here, you can push that foot controller all the way down to the bottom, and it's not going to go any faster than this. And this machine will race if you're doing embroidery type work with it. It has different settings. I'll show that to you a little bit. If I hit the button right over here, and because this is from the early 2000s, it's got one of those LED screens that gets that flicker effect, at least when you're videotaping it or when you're doing a screenshot like this. So it'll be a little bit harder for you to see it. Let me just adjust my laptop screen so I can see exactly what you're looking at. Oh, it also has a nice, I didn't point this out, it's a nice ruler on this extension head, little cubby thing that you can take off or remove as well. So if you need a quick reference for measurements, you can do it right there on the bed. And again, when you take this extension off, on the rear of the extension arm is the feed dog drop. I mentioned that already, but I'll mention it again. And I guess I should backpedal a little bit too. It's got a auto threader here on the faceplate. You push this down like you normally would. It also has a quick release for the presser foot that you can mount on here. That's not anything extraordinary, but it's kind of cool. This cover that goes over the raceway, I don't know if I like it or don't like it. And I'll tell you why. Part of it is metal and part of it is rubber. It's a rubberized material. And when you take this off so you can service or make adjustments to the bobbin case, which you have to do, you have to take out 2 screws and remove this whole assembly. These 2 things come apart, and it's a little bit of a nuisance. It's a little bit of a nuisance to me. I'm used to taking a throat plate cover off, and it's all one piece. Here, they decided to do a rubberized portion on the front and then join it with a metal portion on the back. And so when you put it back into place, you need to make sure you piece these 2 pieces together properly. Otherwise, when you screw it back down, you're not going to be able to turn your balance wheel. It's going to jam your bobbin case against the rotating hook on the bottom, and your machine won't run. So it's a little bit of a nuisance, the design that brother elected to do. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And then it's got a quick little viewing window right here so you can tell where your bobbin thread is, which is great. It's easy to thread the bobbin. When you drop it in, you're going to have the thread over the top, and you're going to draw it through this little track right here. And it's even got a little cutter on the end if you want to just, not have to snip it when you get done. You just pull it to the right a little bit, it cuts the thread, and then just rotate that balance wheel to pull that thread up. The other option, if you don't want to rotate the balance wheel, is you can hit this button right here for the needle down, and then hit the needle button again, and it'll pull that thread back up automatically. So you'll push the button, needle down, push the button again, needle up, and it'll pull that bobbin thread up for you instead of rotating the balance wheel if you don't want to do that. Wonderful feed dog system on this unit as well. Excellent feed dog system. And, the only thing I would question is why brother did that. I don't know why brother used metal and rubber, a rubberized material, instead of just go metal all the way across. It might have been a cost savings, or maybe they're just smarter than I am and they did it for some other reason. So, but at any rate, when that thread goes over the top, as this is turning, you'll notice that it's going to be going counterclockwise. And a lot of the Japanese-based machines, whether they're Brother or Janome or others like that, they're always going to have that rear rotation on the bobbin. It's their design style. So just make sure once you drop the bobbin in, if you do a little pull on that thread, that bobbin needs to be turning counterclockwise if you have it inserted properly. Okay? And again, I would recommend the Class 15J bobbins if you don't have the original ones that were issued by the manufacturer. Okay, it's a great replacement. Okay, let's take a look at this screen over here. I know it's a little flickery, but when you're sitting here looking at the machine and you're actually sitting at the machine, the display is real clean. And you can change the brightness of the screen as well. You tap this little button here in the upper left. I think I just brought the machine to life. And now you've got all kinds of options that you can pick. There's actually five pages of options. Brother is really, determined, just like the last machine we presented from Switzerland. They want to really accommodate the end user. They want that end user to feel like that machine is theirs. It's set up like theirs. It's like a good fitting shoe. It's going to fit them to a T. And so you can choose needle position, left needle position, right needle position as a default, center needle position as a default, whatever you want. You can give control over the width selector. There's a width selector where you can actually use the speed selector as a width selector as well. There's a fine adjuster, presser foot height. You can actually make the presser foot significantly higher as a default if you're working with bulkier quilts and that sort of thing. It has a hyperextension as well, but you can program the height of it so it's always set to the height that you want it, which I think is super cool. Right now as a default, it's at 7.5 millimeters, which seems to be real good for what we're doing. You can adjust presser foot pressure right here on the screen as well. You can see right now we're on 3, which is on the higher end of presser foot pressure. We can go all the way up to 4. And then you can also set, this is another needle position function as well. Screen 2, you can make different adjustments to the embroidery frame. In this area, you can name colors that are specific to the project you're working with. Maximum embroidery speed you can set as well. Right now it's set at a max of 800 stitches per minute. That's flying, but you can actually go faster than 800 stitches per minute if you wanted to. And that's where you would change it here. And then as soon as you back out of it, it's going to save that for you automatically. Embroidery tension, you can set embroidery tension versus sewing tension because they're very different, aren't they? Because you're working with such a different thread and you're working with oftentimes multiple needles on some machines. Presser foot height for embroidery work as well. You can change the size of I think that's the size of the screen. The initial mode. You can change the brightness of the screen as well. You can see that up there. You can have the buzzer on, the buzzer off, the needle area light, the work area light. This machine is actually going to come with 2 lights, one that's specific to the needle area, one that also covers the bed area. And I talked about that recently with that machine from Switzerland, that the light was really, it was inadequate. It was inadequate. It didn't provide much light, if any, to the bed area. And Brother thought about that. So they gave us a light over here, and they also gave us a light over here as well to light up that whole workspace very nicely. But we can also elect if we want to shut those off if for some reason we don't want to use them. We can change languages as well. This is a machine that when it was introduced back in the early 2000s, it would have been distributed all around the world. So if you're living in Germany, you can have it in German. If you're living in France, you can have it in French. There's a variety of different languages you can select right on this setup screen. And that way, in your country of origin, you're not at a deficit in trying to translate things with an American type machine. You know what I mean? And this screen right here is showing us how much use this machine has gotten. It's showing us a service count, and it's showing us the total count. In other words, it measures that almost like a car with the revolutions of the needle on how much this machine has been used. And it looks like, 100, what is it? If I'm reading that number right, it's 1,820,000 some revolutions or something like that. And yeah, so it's almost like when you buy like a tractor and other pieces of equipment like that, they've got like a built-in, what do they call those things? They got a built-in thing that will tell you how much use that motor has gotten. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that's what this machine has as well, which is super cool. Yeah. So a lot of choices. So you can set this machine up to fit you. You don't have to fall in line with everybody else. You can set it up to fit you. And it's a machine that can really give you a sense of, this is my machine. It fits me perfectly. Okay. So utility stitches, we'll kind of tap on that. All kinds of utility stitches potentially to choose from, about three pages of them, 3 pages, different needle positions to start with. And when you get into a certain stitch that you really use a lot and you want to set certain defaults for it, you can do that very easily. Let's say, for example, I'm always wanting to do a straight stitch with a center needle position, this one right here. I'm going to touch that one, and you're going to see right here, it's going to give me a default of, or that's not actually a default, this is my pick. I set this in. It's going to give me a stitch length of 5.0. It's going to give me a tension of 5.8. Let's say I want to touch that and give it a little bit different default that I want to save. All I have to do is go to stitch length, and I'll say I want to make it a 4 point something. Let's say 4.5. I'm going to do a little bit shorter straight stitch. So I'm going to set it at 4.5, and I'm going to adjust the tension because let's say I have a different type of thread. So I'm going to bump the tension down just a little bit. So now I took it from 5.8 to 5.6. I took this from 5 down to 4.5. And now all I do is hit memory right here. And then I say, yep, I want to save it. And I hit OK. And now every time I go to that straight stitch up here, every time I choose that, it's going to automatically have my defaults that I like saved. It's going to have my, if it's a zigzag, it's going to have the stitch width that I like. It's going to have the stitch length in relation to that. It's going to have the tension that I like. And I can save that so I don't have to change it every single time I go in, which I think is a fabulous feature on this machine. There's so many other little buttons on here that I won't even be able to touch on. But again, at the end of this live stream, Susie will post some free manuals relating to this machine, and you can download them. Then you can dig into it and learn even more about the machine that I presented in this live stream. And it's got additional utility stitches. This is page 1. Then there's page 2. And then finally, page 3 has some additional, what they're labeling as utility stitches. Now, we can also go into the decorative stitch category as well, right up here. And then we can look at some of these decorative stitches. And these aren't single stitches. These are all categories with multiple stitches that are built into this machine. So if I pick this first one, for example, right here, and this is obviously all a touch screen. If I pick this one, then I've got 6 pages of decorative stitches that we could possibly try sewing today. There's just a ton of them. That's the last one right there. Or I could choose this category right here. And then there's 4 pages of these, 4 pages of these stitches that I could possibly sew today. That's a cool one right there. 7-13. There's some cool ones right there, real fancy looking. So again, it's great that these are all, these decorative stitches are built in. You've got all of these categories right here, including the lettering ones, the monogramming ones, that you can also choose as well if you want to do personalized type jerseys or whatever you want to do. You just choose those, go into it, punch it in. It lines up right here on this column right here, so you can see it very easily, and you just sew it. Just like I did with Faye's name on this one. Just like I did with this one right here. The only thing I didn't like is I had I had to cut the joining threads out between them, and I didn't do such a great job. But you got to cut the joining threads out on them if you do stitching with lettering and stuff like that. So let's see. I didn't look at this one. Those are some cool ones as well, right there. I can go through some of these screens if you want me to, and that way you can give input on some of the stitches that we might try today. Let me go all the way back to the beginning on the decorative stitching. So this is the first column right here on the left. These are the stitches there. I don't know if you can see those on the screen or not. I'm going to try to hold the camera real still if I can. You can see some of those numbers. See those numbers there? That's what you'll reference if you want me to try to track it down. I'll do my best. Here's some of these. First one is 7-01, 7-02-03, blah, blah, blah. Lots of stitches. Boy, you're going to eat up a lot of thread on these. Look at those. There's a lot of overlay on there. You're going to have a ton of thread you're going to eat up doing this one. I might have to put another spool on. But these are some really cool ones as well. Those are cool. I like those. Those are more utility stitches. So anyway, you get the idea. There's a lot of built-in choices, close to 300 that are built into this machine. And then on the side of the machine, I don't think the camera will stretch that far. I don't think I've got my short cord on the camera today, but on the side of the machine right over here, there's a USB connector and there's card slots where you can put in additional programs that you can buy for this machine, along with the on-off switch, etc. But there really isn't much limit at all on what you can create with a machine like this, because Brother probably makes some of the newer programs compatible with this machine as well. And you can always use maybe some other programs that will be USB uploaded to this machine if it's in the same language in that. But I guess my point is, Faye's husband has real good taste. Number one, in picking out a very special lady and then honoring that special lady with a very special gift that she cherishes beyond words because of who it came from. And again, it was the last gift that he ever gave her before he passed away. So it's a living legacy of his love and a living legacy of their love and her love of sewing as well, right? And her love of embroidery. All right, so enough blah, blah, blah. I've been going over an hour and I haven't even sewn on the machine yet. So I need to do that, right? I need to do that. All right, let me focus on the Brother logo. And I will see if I can pick out something here. Yeah, the service meter. Thank you, Tim. The service meter. And that's what there was a lot of fraud, right? There was a lot of fraud back in the day. And even some movies have made this kind of a lighthearted thing where they used to spin back odometers, and then manufacturers had to design odometers so that they couldn't be spun back. If you tried to spin them the other way, they would break, or they made them digital that they couldn't be hacked, because people wanted to try to sell a car that looked like it had 20,000 miles when it probably had 150,000 miles. So they added these time meters, or these hour meters, or whatever they're called. Service meters is what Tim called them, so that people had to be honest. How much use has this gotten? Well, here you go. Here's the service meter. Here's the hour meter, or whatever it is. And you know exactly how long that motor or whatever it is has been running. So you can't fake it anymore. You got to be honest. That had to be hard. That had to be hard for the people that were used to cheating people, right? Had to be real hard. Okay, so let's see if we can put this machine to work. I'm trying to decide the best place to put the camera. I think the camera is pretty good right here. I just don't want to knock it off. I'm going to point the camera down that way. Yeah, that gives us a good shot, I think, of the sewing space. And I'm going to grab out some 100% cotton. We'll start with some 100% cotton. And we'll just buzz through some of these stitches. We'll do some basic utility stitches, and then we'll move into some other ones. And again, because this machine is designed more with embroidery in mind, even though it's a sewing and embroidery machine, I won't be as picky. I won't be as picky about the lock stitching as I would on some other machines. So I'm going to hit the utility button. And again, whenever you're making changes to any sewing machine, whether it's a fancy Brother 1500D like this one, or a run-of-the-mill Brother machine that you might buy at Walmart for $100, always make sure when you're making changes, keep that needle free of the material so you don't bend it, okay? So I'm going to choose that straight stitch that I like. And I'm going to change the default that I have of 4.5. I'm going to bump it all the way up to 5.0 to give us the longest straight stitch that this machine can do, okay? So I'm going to bump it up to 5. Okay, so now I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to be a little lazy. And Susie's saying you're never lazy, which is probably true. I'm always busy doing something. But I'm going to be lazy, and I'm going to use that pressure foot down button so I don't have to reach back there and move the little lever thing. So you just push this button, watch that pressure foot. Isn't that cool? I feel like I want to do it again. I'm 9 years old, and I'm going to keep pushing the button until mom tells me to stop. Aha. Woo. Ha ha ha. Yeah, baby. All right, I'll stop. I'll stop. Oh, now I'll lower it manually just to show you that it can be lowered manually too. But it's a nice convenience, you know? It really is. It's kind of cool. All right, let me get that in place. Now, this is not an oscillating hook machine, right? There we go. This is not an oscillating hook machine, but it's a Japanese design. And so it may not be bad if you're able. I can't do it because I have the camera right here. But if you're able to hold the thread when you first launch, it may not be a bad idea, because I noticed on this machine, as you're launching, you'll sometimes get that little birdie thing on the end at the beginning of the stitch line as you're going down. So if I get that, I'll just pull the thread and kind of straighten it out. But if you have more room and you don't have a camera in your way like I do, try to hold those threads just for a second as you're launching, and I think it'll help. All right. So remember, I have my presser foot pressure inside of that setting screen on 3. The max is 4. And all I'm sewing is cotton. Now, what will happen sometimes, and I explained this to a dear friend of ours, Marie. Marie is one of the key people that we've gotten to know at the senior center in La Follette, Tennessee. And I serviced her machine as well with all the machines for the senior center. And she says, I love my machine after you serviced it, but it makes a little squeaky sound when I'm sewing sometimes. What is that? I said, that's your presser foot pressure. Whatever you're sewing, it's not heavy enough. Reduce your presser foot pressure, and that squeakiness will go away. So if you hear this one squeaking a little bit as I'm sewing, there's nothing wrong with the machine. It's the fact that we have it set right now on 3 and the max is 4, because that's where it was and I didn't change it. I thought maybe that's where Faye had it. And sometimes once you go in and set something and you don't do it for a while, you can't remember how to get back in there and change it again. So I didn't want to screw around and change the presser foot pressure on Faye. And then all of a sudden have her say, I do some quilting and it's doing this. It's not feeding the material. And I'll go, oops, I did that. So I'm going to leave it alone. If you hear a little squeakiness, that's because in relation to the material, the presser foot pressure is set higher than it needs to be right now. It's not going to hurt the machine. It's not going to hurt us. It's just a little bit annoying. So, okay. All right. So a good old-fashioned straight stitch, the longest that this machine can produce. And then we'll jump into some of the other utility stitches before we do some of the fancier stuff, okay? All right, here we go. So I'm going to end in a needle position down. I just hit that button that I showed you over here to the right. My needle goes back up, and then I can go ahead and get my material out very easily. And you know what? It didn't make a single squeak, even though I've got that presser foot pressure cranked all the way up to 3. It was whisper quiet. I don't know if you could hear that on the microphone. It's a very, very quiet, happy running sewing machine. Very, very happy and very quiet. Let me give this a clip, and we'll just take a look at this straight stitch. Yeah, I got a little bit of that yuckiness on the end because I didn't hold the threads, but that's okay. That's okay. So here's our top stitching. The biggest straight stitch that this 1500D will do, and it's a absolutely drop dead gorgeous straight stitch. Kind of looking over my shoulder here. Beautiful, beautiful straight stitch. That's not quite as long as the Swedish machines that belong to TJ. Remember those Swedish machines, the one that got fried and that I resurrected, blah, blah, blah. Those give you a enormous straight stitch, like 6 millimeters. This isn't going to be quite that large. Not quite that large. Some real good looking stitching though. We turn it over our lock stitching. Again, I'm not as gaga goo over the lock stitching that this embroidery sewing machine does, because it doesn't quite keep that balance as readily, because it's designed primarily to be an extraordinary embroidery machine, but it does a real decent utility stitch as well. Got to kind of go across and look at those. Yeah, very, very nice. Look at it like this as well. This is our lock stitch again. Yeah, very, very nice. And again, if you run into a problem where you go down a stitch and either the top stitching is loose or the lock stitch on the bottom is loose, you know what to do. And one of you that's in the live chat right now, type in there, what do you do? In other words, we can change on the screen right over here. I showed that to you. We can change on the screen right over here. When we're doing a stitch, it's going to give us the tension right there. Right there's the tension. So let's say our stitch is loose on top. Do we go up or down with the upper tension over here? If our top stitch is loose, do we go up or down on this control over here for upper tension? If our bottom stitch is loose, our lock stitch is loose, do we go up or down on this control over here? Right now we're at 5.6. If our top stitch is loose, are we going to go down or are we going to go up? And why? And I'm asking all of you that because a lot of people in this live stream right now, looks like we have about 1,600 people in this live stream. A lot of these people are going to be people that have very little sewing experience. Some of the people in the live stream right now sitting in the shadows are going to have a lot of sewing experience, but no one has ever explained to them how tension works. What does the upper tension do? What does the bobbin case do? So I'm inviting you to become co-teachers and to tell the audience right now, this is what you do and why. So if you're willing to do that, I would be grateful. I would be grateful so that we can make this a learning and a teaching moment as well, right? We all need to learn from each other. I'm not the only teacher here. I'm also a student. I'm learning from all of you in many ways as well. Look at how many times I asked questions already in this live stream, and Tim and others jumped in to bail me out. We all have God-given gifts and talents, and we need to share them. And we encourage that in this environment, don't we? No one's stepping over the line. No one's stepping on my shoes if they jump in and contribute and give ideas and thoughts and insights. That's what our classroom is all about. That's what our classroom is all about. All right, I'm going to put on a little bit of music real quick, get a quick sip of tea, and then we're going to jump in and do some more stitching with this Brother INNOVIS 1500D. I'm going to get notes from brother. I already see it happening. They're going to say, if you're going to present one of our machines, can you at least say it right? Can you say it right, Scott? Yeah, that's what they're going to say. Sorry, guys. I'm doing my best here. I'm doing my best. All right. Let me see if I can put on something other than the Japanese music I just did. Hold on, hold on, hold on. All right, this is a short one, but this will be long enough. All right, let me pause that real quick. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do another straight stitch, but I'm going to make it much, much shorter. And again, we do that on the screen right over here very easily. Right now you can see I'm at a 5.0, and I'm just going to bump that down to 2 point something. Yeah, 2.5. So right now you can see our length is 2.5. Our tension is going to stay the same at 5.6. And yeah, let's see how we do on this one. And then we'll move into a zigzag, a 3-point zigzag. We'll do a couple of other utility stitches. And then we're going to jump into some of the decorative stitching that this machine can do as well. Okay. All right. Let me just check my distance. I don't want to waste a lot of material here. The other thing I didn't show you is another one of the machines we did not too long ago. Another of the machines I did not too long ago had a lockout feature. A lockout feature so that if you're working like I am down here by the needle, you can avoid sewing over your finger by locking the machine out. And this one has it as well, right there with that little lock symbol. So if I push that lock symbol, right now, if I push on the foot controller, it's not going to do anything. So I can't inadvertently sew my finger. And then when I want to get back to work, just take it off again. So I think that's really, really a nice feature on this. All right, so let's do a real short straight stitch or a shorter straight stitch. I can't see anything on my laptop screen today. Let me rotate it a little bit, see if that helps. Eventually, I'm going to plug an HDMI type screen into my laptop, and I'll put it somewhere. Maybe it'll have like little feet it can stand on it on top of the workbench in front of me. And then I'll be able to see the screen in front of me instead of always looking over my shoulder. Wouldn't that be smart? I should have done that a long time ago. Susie even gave me a screen, and I've been so busy with other things. Yeah, I haven't done it yet. I'll do it eventually. So, all right, let's do this other straight stitch, and then we'll jump into a zigzag, 3-point zigzag, blah, blah, blah. And this time I'll see if I can reach behind and just hold the thread a little bit, see if that gives us even a cleaner launch. And we'll go from there. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to stop right there, needle up. Pull that out. Yeah, I did a horrible job of the spacing there. Look at that big ocean gap there, right there. It's a little bit harder for me with the presser foot I have on here to see exactly where that needle is going to come down. So I guess I'll excuse myself and say it's the fault of the presser foot. Ha ha! It's the fault of the presser foot. So here's our little straight stitch. Really quite lovely. Great definition. Great clarity of stitch on that as well. Kind of go up and down like this a little bit. You can see both of those at the same time. So one is 5.0, the other is 2.5. So we basically reduced the stitch mathematically by about 50%, didn't we? Yeah, we'll look at it like this as well. Yeah, lovely, lovely top stitching. We'll turn it over like this and look at that lock stitching. Equally gorgeous lock stitching. See, this machine heard me talking about the fact that it's an embroidery leaning machine and that the lock stitching isn't going to be quite as good. It's not going to be quite as defined. And now it's trying to show me up. It's trying to say, ha, ha, ha. I'm going to give you some great looking lock stitching just because you're bad mouthing me, Scott. Yeah, very, very nice. So I don't know if someone typed in an explanation or not, but I'm assuming that they probably did. So as you're looking at this stitching right here, if we look at this top stitching and we say it's really, really good, but it could be better if it were a little bit more defined. What we would do on that little screen over there, if we wanted the top stitching to be more defined, is we would go ahead and bump down that number from 5.6 to something lesser. And then what it would do is it would allow that bobbin case to pull down harder and to give us a nicer looking or a more defined top stitch. The bobbin case is going to define this. And by reducing the upper tension, we allow that bobbin case to pull harder and to give us more definition on top of the material. If the opposite is true, if we look at the lock stitching and we say it's a really good looking lock stitch, but it could be even better if it had a little bit more clarity, then on that little screen over there, we would go up from 5.6 to a number higher. And then what it would do is it would clarify this stitch on the bottom and give it even more definition. Now be careful though, because if you go too far and you give too much clarity to the bottom or to the top, you're going to ultimately take away from the other side, and then you'll be fighting back and forth trying to get that balance again. So always take small steps and see what the result is, and then you can fine tune it. And if you get what you really like, remember how I showed you can hit that memory key and you can save it so that you know exactly what you want for that stitch, okay? So let's do a zigzag now. And zigzags are notoriously a challenge when it comes to trying to maintain stitch tension, because you've got those bridging points where there's no support, and the tendency is that it tends to allow that thread to droop a little bit, doesn't it? So I'm going to drop that presser foot, and now I'm going to change the screen over here and go over to one of the zigzag options. There's several zigzag options, but I'm going to go to this one right here. And you can see I've got a default right now of width of 4.0, a length of 4.0, and a tension of 5.6. Let's try sewing it just the way it is right now and see what we get. We'll sew it just like that. Just looking at my screen over my shoulder. And I'll do a quick little hold on those threads as we launch to lay down a zigzag. Again, we're sewing with a quilting needle by Schmetz, a quilting needle by Schmetz, 7511. Our thread is Coats & Clark Dual Duty XP thread. Okay, here we go. Stop right there. Needle up. All right, so we just laid down a fairly large zigzag. It's not the absolute largest that this machine will do, but it's darn close. It's darn close. All right, give that a clip on the back as well. Okay, so first of all, our top stitching for this zigzag, really quite lovely. Really quite lovely. So we've got a very good tension balance right now at 5.6. We'll look at all three of those rows. I'll kind of looking at my camera over my shoulder. There we go. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. And now our lock stitching, we'll kind of turn that around without knocking the camera off, hopefully. There's our lock stitching for the zigzag and the straight stitches that we did already as well. And again, we're just focused on utility stitches right now. We're only focused on utility stitches. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, lovely sewing. Lovely sewing. And again, that was the whole idea from Brother. We're going to give folks a machine that will do some really good sewing, but then also throw in the decorative and the embroidery as well on top of it. So they really were offering quite a nice smorgasbord, weren't they? They were offering quite a nice smorgasbord of those things that would appeal no matter what kind of sewist you were. All right, so let's do a 3-point zigzag now. Lower my presser foot, and we'll go over to the 3-point zigzag, which should be this one right here, if I remember correctly, the 1-14. And you can see I've got a default right now. I'm going to leave it. This is what Brother has selected. Brother has selected a default of a width of 5.0, a length of 1.0 millimeters. So very short stitch, but a wide stitch. And then our tension right now is set at 5.6 again. So I'm going to leave that alone. We'll just sew it the way it is and see what we get. This will be a 3-point zigzag stitch. All right. I think that's a pretty good shot. And I'll give a quick little hold on the thread as we launch. All right, here we go. And I'm just going at a very moderate speed right now. I'm not going fast. I'm not going slow. I'm just kind of right in the middle. All right, getting ready to stop right there. And this machine may have it, but I didn't find it. You remember one of those machines I presented not too long ago, it had an end stitch where if you're sewing a pattern, as you're nearing the edge of the material, you can hit that button and then it will finish off that stitch pattern so that it's complete. It's not like half of it, a quarter of it, or whatever. I didn't find that on this machine. It may have it somewhere because it's got a lot of different options, but I specifically didn't find it. So I just have to manually estimate when I get near the edge of that screen or at the end of the material, and then just bring it to a stop. All right, so this is going to be our 3-point zigzag, really one of my favorite, not just utility stitches, one of my favorite stitches all time. I just love it. It's a lovely stitch. All right, so here's our 3-point zigzag. I'll show that to you like this. There we go. That is some gorgeous stitching. And the balance on tension right now for this this top stitch, you can't get it much better than this. You can't get it much better than that. And the proof of that is as you look at that 3-point zigzag, you can see all those points, 3 points on each side that stitching is touched. Oftentimes it's muddled. And on this one, on Faye's machine, it's got gorgeous clarity with the 3 stitches on each side of that zigzag. Really good definition. Turn it over, look at that lock stitching. Also, some really, really gorgeous stitching. Great clarity of stitch as well. I would say it's probably not as sharp as the top stitching. You can see on one side, we've got those 3 stitches that are clearly visible. On the other side, the 3 stitches are not as clearly visible. So we would solve that or make that better by bumping our upper tension up. So right now we're at 5.6 on the screen. We might go to 5.8. We might go to 6. And then it would clarify that stitch a little bit better. But it's still quite a lovely stitch. Yeah, some really, really impressive stitching from this 1500D that I'm seeing with these utility stitches. We'll probably do like one more utility stitch, and then we'll move into some of the decorative stitching. It looks like we've been running about an hour and 30 minutes. And I told Faye that we would probably run about 2.5 hours, something like that. So I've got to get into some of this other stuff. Oh, okay. Wow Chic 55 is offering some good input. So they're saying don't use the foot controller. And they're saying that the machine will handle some of this in an automated way. I'm not sure exactly how the foot controller would control that. Maybe you can explain that a little bit further. I could see the auto start button being a benefit if you don't have the foot controller plugged in. And I pointed that out on the machine right here. This is our auto start if we don't have the foot controller plugged in. But I don't know how that would make the clarity of the stitching any better if you go auto on the start versus using the start with the foot controller. Maybe you can explain that a little bit more. A lot of these stitches are going to come automatically with a default, especially the decorative stitches are going to come with a default on stitch width, stitch length, and perhaps even a default with tension. But depending on, here's the problem with relying on automatic things. It's kind of like the auto presser foot function that a lot of the machines have, or the auto tension, or now we even have artificial intelligence in real time that's trying to control tension as well at the commercial and at the industrial level. With auto tensions or auto functions, they rely on certain static, reliable factors. And when you change those factors, in other words, the type of needle you're using, the type of thread you're working with, the type of material you're sewing on, the number of layers of material you're sewing on, as soon as you change those factors that those auto functions depend on, you can throw yourself into a tailspin. So I appreciate the input because I definitely am not an expert on this machine, but I am an expert on functions of machine. And when it comes to auto functions, as soon as you change the variables, inevitably they will run into problems. So, but it's a great input. It's a great suggestion, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm not sure how Faye uses this machine or not. I'm guessing that she uses the foot controller, but auto functions are something that are certainly getting better, especially with artificial intelligence getting involved, but they're not perfect. They're not perfect for sure. Oh, telling me how to end the stitch. Oh, okay. Sorry. I got on a tangent because of the auto functions. I get what you're saying now. Some of the foot controllers too, though, and I'm not sure if this one has it, will have a double tap as well. And if you, some of the fall foot controllers will have a double tap, whereas you're nearing the end of the material. If you tap it twice, it will also end stitch and finish the pattern. But that's good to know. So if you're using the auto button to start, then you're saying that it'll, I guess I'm confused. I'm confused. I'll show you why I'm confused, because as we get into some of the decorative patterns on this machine, it's not going to give you a singular pattern. It's going to give you a string It's going to give you a string of patterns, the same pattern over and over and over and over and over and over again. And if you have the auto start, how will it know when you're reaching the end of the material to finish off the last pattern before you run out of material? Maybe I'm missing something, but on this machine, at least, when we go into the decorative ones, I'll show you on the screen, it's got a repeat of the same pattern forever. So how would it work then? Help us understand how it would work then. Okay, stitch pattern. Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying that, Susie. Yeah, I was on an automatic tangent. I was on an automatic temper tantrum about tension or something. So, all right. Anyway, I appreciate the input. Whoever wow is, I love people sharing their knowledge, but I would just need to, when we get to the decorative ones, you'll see what I'm talking about. On this machine, it would be more difficult because there's no end pattern. It just continues like a string, like a pinwheel. You can sew that pattern forever and ever and ever. Amen. And so I'm not sure how that would benefit us or how that would work then. I'm not sure. Okay, let's see here. Let's do another utility stitch. I'm just going to pick one at random. I'll just pick another utility stitch at random, and we'll see how this does. See how this one does. And I haven't changed the tension. I haven't changed the defaults on this one. It's going to be whatever brother has set up for this particular utility stitch. Okay. Let's see here. All right, let's try this stitch. This is going to be our last utility, and then we'll move into some of the fancier decorative stitches, okay? All right, here we go. And I'm going to go just with the defaults that brother has. Stitch width, stitch length, and tension. Slow us down just a little bit. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Needle up. Yeah, this is a good looking one too. It looks like we had one little anomaly near the beginning. We had one little anomaly near the beginning where, again, I went with the default tension that brother had. And for this one, because we're dealing with a lot of pitching up, to the thread. For this stitch pattern, we might benefit from having a little bit less upper tension and give a little bit more pull down to that bobbin case. Because it looks like here we were a little bit looser at the launch, and we could have tightened that second stitch up to make that that point more defined. It got a little bit loose on us. You see, as we're going down, the second stitch right there had just a little bit of an anomaly, and I think that was probably a tension issue where that bobbin case was not pulling down hard enough. But then it fell back into a groove, whatever that auto function was that was by default for this pattern. It fell back into a groove, and it laid down an absolutely drop dead gorgeous stitch pretty much all the way down. But I think we lacked bobbin case pull down on this particular stitch pattern a little bit. I think we could have gotten a better result with a little bit less upper tension and a little bit more bobbin case tension. Yeah, there's one or two stitches that I think they were lacking a little bit. You'll see when we look at the back side of it, we look at the back side of the material we're doing right now, the lock stitch of that pattern is spot on. So that tells me that that's a tension issue. We went with brother's default which was 5.0 on the tension. I think it should have been a little bit less. It should have been like 4.6 or 4.8, because look at our backside. It's looking really, really good on the lock stitching. Let me adjust my screen over there real quick. Hold on just a second. I can't see a thing on my laptop screen, so I can't tell if it's in focus or out of focus. All right, now I can see it. There we go. So look at how defined the clarity of the stitch on the lock stitch. See the points on those they're really, really nice points. And that is a product of that upper tension pulling against that thread and defining it nicely. All the way from top to bottom, we've got nice clarity of stitch on this particular fancier utility stitch. Some really good looking definition. And again, we're not sewing with an embroidery needle. We're sewing with generic thread. But I think if we had reduced that just a little bit, we wouldn't have lost the clarity of this stitch, and we would have tightened up our stitching on some of these here that were a little bit lacking. That one there, that one there. All in all, we had a pretty good rhythm going down. And again, when it comes to automatic, I was on my little rampage about automatic a bit ago. When it comes to automatic, when Brother sets up a stitch like this and they give you certain defaults that they recommend you go with, and sometimes you'll have the discretion to change them, sometimes you won't. But when you're looking at certain defaults, they're making certain assumptions about what your sewing setup will be. And based on those assumptions of what your sewing setup will be, they then program in those defaults as recommendations. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And that's where you have to use your own intuition and adjust if you're not getting the result that you want. So on this one, my adjustment would be to get better clarity on this top stitching would be to take down that default of 5.0 by, 0.2 of a point or 0.3 of a point or whatever it would be. And then we would get great clarity of stitch all the way up and down here and also here as well. Okay? Yeah. And forgive me if I get on a rampage sometimes, but I really do aim to try to get us as close to perfection as we can get. It doesn't matter what kind of machine I'm presenting to you. I want to try to get as close to perfection as we can. And sometimes the manufacturer will help us with that. And sometimes their recommendations take us the wrong direction because of our setup. Our setup may be different than what they anticipated. Okay, enough blah, blah, blah. So let's move into the decorative stitches now. Let's move into decorative stitches. I guess I'm Steve now. I'm going to ring the bell with Wow calling me Steve. All right. What's in a name? Everything. No, I thank you, Susie, for defending my honor. I am Scott, not Steve, but Steve is a good name too. Steve is a very good name. All right. Let's take a look at the decorative stitches. And you know what I might do as well is I might move this machine over just a little bit. Move this machine over just a little bit. Now we're going to hit the character and the decorative stitch button right here. See that right there? We are on utility stitch. Now we're going to hit this one. And now we've got these basically 3, 6, 9, 12 different blocks that we could possibly go into. 12 different blocks that we could possibly go into. I think I'll go into the one that's going to do Faye's name to start. So I'm going to go into this block one right here. And now I'm going to enter Faye's name. And we'll see if we can sew her name. but I'm not going to clip the threads for you. I'll let Susie do that because I don't do well with it. I get impatient and I cut the material. And so I'm going to hit F, A, Y, E. Okay. So now I type Faye's name, and there's probably a way to, yeah, I'm looking on the edges. There's a way to make additional changes beyond that. I'm just going to stick with the basic. I'm going to stick with the basic. And on the screen right now, while we're in this embroidery type phase or this block phase, it doesn't tell us what the tension setting is. I don't see anywhere on the screen right now where it's showing me like it did before on the bottom what the tension is. Here's one button that looks like it's close. There it is. So the tension they're giving us for this particular block pattern with these letters on the upper tension is only 3.6 by default. You can see that right there. Stitch width, stitch length, they're blank, so those are pre-programmed. 3.6 is really, really low on upper tension. That's very, very low. The lowest I've seen so far has been 5.0. So I don't know. That makes me a little bit nervous. That makes me a little bit nervous as far as what's going to happen on the bottom of the material with only being at 3.6. But why don't we go on faith and assume that brother is smarter than us and they have a reason for defaulting it at 3.6. I'm probably going to find that I should have gone with my gut and just bumped it up a little bit. So if we have a little bit of a muddledness on the bottom of the material, my hunch was probably right. My hunch was probably right. All right, let's set this up. We'll do Faye's name. And then we'll jump into some other patterns that we can put next to this as well. Okay? All right, let's do Faye's name now. And I'm going to hold that thread. Now, this is going to be moving around and hopping around quite a bit. So really watch the wonder of engineering when it comes to what these feed dogs underneath the material. We can't see them doing their dance, but the feed dogs are not only moving front and back, but they're moving left and right. And there's also a secondary extension underneath there as well that's helping to guide the material as well. When you take apart the throat plate and take that out and take the bobbin case out and everything, you'll see that mechanism, and it rides over a piece of felt that has to be kept very, very clean so it can do its job. Okay? All right, let's do Faye's name now. Here we go. Let me see what my speed is going to be. I'll take this kind of slow. There, it's pulling it to the left, forward and back, pulling it to the right. And on the screen, you can't see it, but it's going by each letter. It's showing you that we just finished F. Now we're doing A. And you'll see when it's going between the letters to extend that piece of thread, it's doing a little hop, which I think is super cool. Now we're on the Y. That hopping is way cool. I feel like I need music on. That's really way cool. Now we're on the E, and it's finishing off the E now. There we go. So I'm going to do my needle up. Let's see what we did. See how we did with this. Let's see how we did with this. And again, some of these functions with the decorative stitches would be better served with a different type of needle. We're using a quilting needle instead of using an embroidery style needle. A quilting needle doesn't do quite as good of a job as a as an embroidery style needle would. Just doesn't get the job done quite as well. So yeah, the clarity of things will be a little bit different, maybe a little bit more muddled because of our needle selection. And that was my choice. Decided I wanted to use a quilting needle instead of using something else. Yeah, the backside I think is a little bit muddled because of that super low tension of 3.6 that the Brother people recommend. And again, we could clean this up quite a bit. On this other one, we'll look at them comparatively. On this other one, off camera, I did use a Schmetz 7511 embroidery needle. So you can see the impact with needle selection as well. It's the same thread, but the needle selection, the one on the top was with an embroidery needle. The one on the bottom was with a quilting needle. So you can kind of see the difference between the two, along with the fact that I used, partly the tension. I believe on this one, I also adjusted tension a little bit too. But it's a great tool to have if you get it the way you need to get it. We're doing one-offs here with sewing it off camera, sewing it on camera, and not getting all the results that we want. But if you're the owner of this machine, you can certainly fine tune it and get some even better results than I did with either one of these. But at least gets us heading in the direction of seeing what the possibilities of the machine are. See what the possibilities of the machine are. All right, so let me see here. I think I'll go ahead and cut this one off. And I'll just throw it to the side. We'll get a different material color. We'll get a red one out. I've got a red one here already. And we'll move into some of these other decorative patterns that they've got. And I'm going to offset it a little bit because some of these might have that tri-motion where when we launch, it's going to start pulling that material forward and back, and we might end up off of the material. So let me go over here. I'm gonna escape this this block lettering category. Let's see here. And we'll go into this first block right here, see if we can find something interesting to sew. A little tree thing going on there. That's an interesting one right there. I think I'd like to try that one, see how we do. And this is what I was saying to our friend. I don't know who the wow person is, but they're saying something about if you, instead of using the foot controller, if you use this, that you would have more success in ending the pattern when you get, my whole goal is to end the pattern. So when I get to the edge of the material, I'm not going to have half or a quarter of a pattern, right? But I don't see how that would help us because on this machine, when you choose a decorative pattern like this, it's going to be a continuous flow. See that? It goes on and on and on and on and on. And we could keep sewing even if we run out of material. It's just going to keep replicating the same pattern over and over and over again. And again, I don't know this machine in and out. Maybe there's another way to figure out the end pattern thing. If there is, that would be a great thing to add in the comments to help somebody else out. And it's possible that Faye knows how to do that because she's had the machine since the early 2000s. But, readily I'm not seeing it. I'm just curious what the default tension is on this one. Again, the default tension on this decorative pattern as well is 3.6. I don't know. That seems really low to me. But we'll go with it. We'll go with it and see what we get. See what we get. All right, let's try this. It almost looks like a 4-leaf clover type design. There's so many other ones to pick on this machine, but we'll try sewing this one a full length and we'll see how we do with this quilting needle. I'm sure I'll get notes from brothers saying, why didn't you use an embroidery needle? I did off camera. I did it off camera. I just didn't do it on camera. All right, here we go. Let's give this one a try. And I'll keep the speed down just because on some of these patterns, they're a little bit more intricate. It'll give that hook timing and everything a little bit more opportunity to do a good job. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. A lot of complexity to this stitch, a lot of complexity. Good gravy, that's a complex stitch. I think my material, I didn't change the presser foot pressure. My material might be letting this slip a little bit. I hope I don't go off material, but the feed dogs are manipulating it left and right, not just backwards and forwards. We'll see how much we stay on line. Maybe I should have offset it more to the right. Yeah, I'm starting to go off the material. Let me stop it. See, I'm actually off the material now. So I didn't want to mess with the feed factor on this. Let me pull that needle up. Pull my presser foot up, see if I can slide this over a little bit. We're gonna have a little bit of an interesting thing going on here. And I'm gonna resume it now and see if we can get that pattern within line. So much manipulation, so much manipulation. And that's why servicing a machine is so critical. You can hear all of those mechanisms working in concert right now to manipulate the material left and right, forward and back. Those are all points that had old grease stuck on them that needed to be cleaned off and lubricated when I took the machine apart. Yeah, the one I restarted has half the pattern missing on top. This is fun. Let me speed it up a little bit more. We're not even close to max on this machine. Not even close. Now, if there is an end pattern key on this somewhere on this machine, this is where it would be so helpful because I would hit it right now. I would hit it right now, and then it would finish off this pattern and it would end. But instead, I got to take my foot off the gas. Yeah. Quite lovely. Even with a quilting needle, it's quite lovely. Take a look at this particular pattern. It looks a little bit different on here to me than it does on the screen. Looks a little bit different. Let me cut a couple threads here that have kind of tangled over. And all in all, I guess I'm putting my trust in brother, which is good. I told you it only had a 3.6 setting for the upper tension, and that made me nervous about the bottom of the material that we're looking at right now. But you know what? It turned out better than I thought it would. It turned out better than I thought it would. Let's take a look at this particular pattern. And this is pattern 6-017. 6-017 is what the pattern is. And I could see if you're using a slightly different setup, maybe some embroidery floss or some really high grade embroidery thread and an embroidery needle, I would probably go a little bit bigger than a 7511. I might go with a 9014 Schmetz embroidery needle. You could really do some spectacular things with these patterns. This is our top stitching right here. Here's where the material was losing its path and it started to go off. I'll get a little bit closer so you can look at those. And I readjusted and we started again, and then it was spot on. So I had it too close to the edge of the material. Lesson learned: when you're dealing with a machine that's not only using tri-motion forward and back, but it's also using motion left and right, you've got to do a little bit more of an offset to allow for that function. So let's take a look at these. We'll kind of go down, starting right there. I got like a shadow right now. Do you see that? I got like a shadow. I don't know why. I've got so much lighting in this workshop. There we go. There's my half one on top. Not even half. It's probably like a little bit less than half. But really quite a nice pattern. Quite a nice pattern. I really like that one. It's really pretty. All right, let me see if I can pick one other pattern or two. And I'm going to check my time, see how we're doing on time. I'm going to give this plenty of offset this time. All right, see if I can pick another pattern, and we'll throw some other stuff down on this material. Yeah, that's a pretty pattern too. Yeah, a snowflake or a flower. I agree, Jenny. That's exactly what it looks like. Wow, Chic 55. Yeah, yep. Not to be defensive, but I appreciate you explaining that you have to use the auto start. You have to use you have to disconnect the foot controller. I get that. Yeah. I just elected not to use the auto start because the foot controller is there. That's probably the way the customer uses the machine. But yeah, obviously, if you have the foot controller plugged in, the auto start doesn't work. I actually explained that in another live stream that you may not have been a part of, that the auto start was actually added with some ADA influence. American Disabilities Act also influences the sewing industry as well. And they were taking issue with the fact that almost all the sewing machines at one time, the only way you could actuate them, the only way you could engage them was with a foot controller. What if you're a quadriplegic? What if you're an amputee? How do you engage the sewing machine then if you want to have the pleasure of sewing? So they started doing other things that would accommodate ADA issues that would limit people in how they could use that sewing machine. So the auto function is not just a convenience, it's also something to open the field of sewing to individuals that might have disabilities and might not have access to their feet as well. So I don't know if WOW knew that, but that's another aspect of why that button is there. It's an ADA enticement to open up sewing to everybody. Everybody should have the pleasure of sewing, and sometimes with disabilities or other issues, people feel like they can't be a part of that setting, and they should be able to be. So I'm grateful the button is there. I'm just not using that button in this live stream. So hopefully that doesn't offend anybody that I'm not using the button. I'm using the foot controller instead. So, all right, let's pick another pattern. See if we can pick something else that's interesting and fun. We just did 6-0-17. 6-017. You just kind of go back and forth a little bit here. That's an interesting one there. 6-026. Just like 6-027 is really cool as well. They're all cool. There's so many cool patterns on this machine that are built in. Oh my gosh, look at that one there. 6-041. That's similar to the one that we just did, but it looks like a string pattern. What's this one? I don't know what that one is. That's a balloon or something. Maybe I'll try this flower one. That's kind of cool. 6-037. Of course, we just did a flower. Maybe I should do something different, huh? There's a lot of floral things on here. A lot of floral things. Looks like a real complex one there. 6-023. And that's also going to replicate itself all the way down. And on this one, they're recommending that I have a different presser foot on. They're saying that I should have presser foot N instead of J. I should put presser foot N on instead of J. So maybe I should do that. Let's do that. We'll change presser feet, which I normally don't do, but we'll do it in this instance. So I'm going to also put the machine in the safe mode. On the screen, it's got that little lock. I'm going to push that lock so that I don't sew my finger. And I'll go ahead and take off J. So that's our J foot right there. And now, let's see if I can find foot N, which is what they're recommending. So I'm going to open up our little magical box here. And it looks like foot N is right there. So I'm going to put J away. And I'll take out N. This one right here is what they're saying we should be using for this particular stitch. I'll put that back into place. And we'll drop down that presser foot to see if we can get it to lock on. There we go. We get our thread back. So we're going to follow the rules. I'm usually one that colors outside of the lines, but in this instance, we'll color in the lines. We put on a different foot like brother recommended. And now we're going to try this super crazy, cool, complex. I'm going to really offset here, so I got a lot of wiggle room. We'll see if we can pull this one off. And again, these are decorative stitches, ornamental stitches that would be better served with an embroidery needle and probably embroidery thread. We're being a little bit of a rebel. We're using a quilting needle, a Schmetz quilting needle, 7511, and we're using Coats & Clark Dual Duty XP thread. And if you're not familiar with Dual Duty XP thread, it's thread that you can use in machines, but you can also use it for hand sewing as well. Coats & Clark wanted to offer a dual purpose thread that could be used for machine sewing or for hand sewing. So they came up with a Dual Duty XP. If you didn't know that, you can ring a bell that you learned something new. It's always good to learn new things, isn't it? All right. So we've got the right foot on according to what brother's telling us. Now we're going to try this super crazy cool off the hook pattern. See if I can pull it off. I'm just going to slow my speed down a little bit more. Give this machine plenty of maneuvering time. And we'll see how we do. All right, here we go. Oh, I was going to check the tension on this. I'm just curious if the tension on this one is also 3.6. Oh, it's not going to let me look at it now. I've gone too far. I've already selected it. It's like, no, you can't look at it now. We're not going to show you. We're not going to show you. That's okay. All right, here we go. Let's try this pattern. Slow us down just a little bit more. There we go. And I'm not going to hold the material at all. I'm going to just guide it a little bit if I have to. And I'll just let those feed dogs manage the direction of that material. Because you can see it's pulling it left and right. It's pulling it everywhere. It's hard to steer material when it's not just going forward and back. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to leave it alone. Oh, it actually fills in that center too. That's kind of cool. You probably can't see that in the camera, but on that pattern, it also fills in the center as well. It's such a smooth running machine, isn't it? Listen. The manipulation of that material is just fascinating to me. I'm going to try to change the camera angle real quick. We're almost out of material. All right, I'm going to stop right there. You know what? For our setup with a quilting needle, I don't know if you can see that or not. For our setup with a quilting needle, we got some pretty doggone good clarity out of that pattern. It's an incredibly complex pattern, and we got some very good clarity. I'm looking at the screen. Yeah, that's really impressive. So Schmetz, I'll get notes from Schmetz as well saying, why are you doing embroidery work with our quilting needles? But you know what? It's America. We can still use quilting needles for embroidery, can't we? I think we can. And I can see now why it recommended that we go to the N foot instead of the J foot, because it's got a little bit of a broader base to keep that nice and flat as we're going through it. But I'll show you the back of the pattern. This is where I've become a little bit more skeptical about the defaults that they recommend sometimes, like for tension. Here you can see we've got a pretty decent looking pattern replicated there almost 3.5 times. And we're not using all of the tools that we could. There we go. We're not using all the tools that we could to clarify that stitch. Embroidery needle would help. I don't think this machine comes with any kind of a roller foot or a walking foot, but anything to keep that material pressed down so that it would make those movements more smoothly. But it really has a kind of an ornamental, majestic look to that pattern, doesn't it? It's quite lovely. Quite lovely. Yeah, very, very nice pattern. But again, when we flip it over, we look at the lock stitching, we lose some of that definition. It becomes muddled because we only had a default upper tension setting of 3.6 instead of like 4.0 or 5 or something like that. It's not horrible. It's not awful, but it's not nearly as clarified. It's not as clarified as the top stitching. But again, if you're doing some of this stitching, they don't look at the bottom as much, do they? They look at the top pattern, and that may be why Brother defaults to such a low setting. They want to really give the emphasis to the top stitching that's going to be shown on that product or on that garment or whatever it is. They're not as concerned about what's up against the skin, what's underneath. What's underneath is secondary compared to what's on the surface. And it doesn't look awful, but it's not quite as clarified as the other stitching. Yeah. You see what I'm saying by the points. Yeah. Not as clarified. So what do you think of this machine? What do you think of this machine? It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's a super cool machine, and I'm guessing that's probably what Faye's husband was thinking when he picked it out for her is, "This is cool." It's like a power tool on steroids. If he's thinking like a typical guy, he's thinking this is like a power tool, and I don't know, he probably never, it's sometimes a barrier for guys to sit down to a machine like this, but if they do, they probably get hooked because there's so many cool things you can do with a sewing machine like this. Let's see. Maybe I'll just do one more pattern, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm going to look at my time right now. See how we're doing on time. Yeah, we're at 2:23. So we'll do one or two more patterns. Again, I love to involve the audience, but it's a little bit tougher on this LED screen because it flickers like that. It's harder for you to see it. But I'll pick out some cool stitches, and then we'll wrap up this live stream with Faye's brother INNOVIS 1500D. INNOVIS 1500D. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll put that right about there. Okay. So let me see. See if I can pick out another cool one for you. All right, decorative stitching. Well, let's see what this one has. Oh, this is the one that has real super heavy overlay of the threads. That might be interesting to see. Let's see here. Oh, that one's kind of cool too. I'm going to try this one. It's kind of a elongated one. It's a 7-13. If you can see that on the screen. There's 7-13. There's 7. I'll tell you what, I do want to involve the audience. So I'm going to have you pick either 7-12, 7-13, 7-14, or 7-15. We'll just simplify it. If you'll type in the live chat either 7-12, 7-13, 7-14, or 7-15, and whichever one I get the more of, I'll go ahead and sew that one. Okay? So that's what they look like. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. Either this one, this one, this one, or this one. Yeah, we could be here all day if we went through all the patterns. There's so many patterns. So type that on the screen or type that in the live chat if you would, and I'll go ahead and select that pattern. We'll run down with that pattern. Maybe we'll do one more after that, and then we'll wrap up this live stream because we're getting right around 2 hours and 25 minutes. 2 hours and 25 minutes. So I'm seeing -13, -12, and -16. You know what? I love you guys. I love all of you. So I'm going to do all of them. We'll just do them one after another, okay? There's probably a way. Again, I'm never going to know. I say this all the time in confession, that I'm never going to have the level of intimacy with this machine, getting it back to greatness and spending a couple of hours with it compared to the owner. Faye could probably sit down and teach me a million things about this machine. She's had it for decades. Or maybe our person Wow could also teach me some things if we sat down next to each other as well, because maybe they've had a machine like this for many, many years as well. So we just kind of bumble through it and hopefully inspire someone to say, you know what? I think that's a machine for me. I want to get that one. And especially with the embroidery functions of this, you're almost without bounds. You can do so many things, so many things. So let's do 12, 13. Looks like Wow is also picking 15 as well. So let me see. 12, we got 12, 13. I'm going to try to do them all. And if we run on a bobbin thread, doggone it, I'll want another bobbin. I will see how we do. Should have enough room to do all of them. All right, let me just get this lined up. This best as I can. All right, let's do 12 first, then we'll do 13, then we'll do 14, then we'll do 15. So I'm going to do 12 first. Good gravy. This one really, 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 really could use an embroidery needle. This one could really use an embroidery needle. This looks like it's incredibly complex. 12 is looking intense. Let's see how we do with it. Okay, let me see here. How's our camera angle? Pretty good, I think. Yeah, that looks good. All right, we'll do 12, 13, 14, 15, and then we'll wrap up this live stream. And I want to thank everybody. I really want to be clear. I appreciate everybody that's in the live stream right now. We've got a lot of folks sitting in the wings. I get that. Countless times, and the leadership team could attest to this, countless times we've heard from someone say, when we get to finally meet them, I've been following this channel. I've been following Scott. I've been following Cow Country and been a part of the family in the shadows for, one person told me 12 years. They were in the shadows for 12 years before they finally joined the live chat. So if you're in the shadows right now and you've been following this channel for a long time, when you're ready, we're ready to welcome you. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to find out what your name is, your first name, where you're from, in the US, around the world, wherever, and just make you feel like you're a part of the family. We feel honored and blessed to have you here. And when you're ready to step into the live chat, that would be fantastic. Okay. I'm not a pushy guy. No, the leaders aren't pushy either, but we love meeting. We love meeting new people. We love meeting new people. All right. So here's stitch 12. Then we're going to do 13, 14, 15. All right. I'm going to take this a little bit slow. All right. Here we go. Better watch my thread. I'm getting low on top thread too. Holy moly. We finished this stitch line. Remind me to check the bobbin to see how low we are. And the feed system on this machine really is impressive. I'm not doing a thing right now. I'm not doing a thing. I'm just watching it like you are. And it's doing a very good job right now of keeping it on course. It's doing a very good job of keeping it on course. Very, very good job. And listen to that machine run. I don't know if you agree, but I think Faye's husband has very good taste. Very good taste. Oh yeah, we got plenty of bobbin thread. I'm looking at it right now. We're good. We're good to go. We'll be able to finish this live stream easy without changing out the bobbin. But I should show you how to wind a bobbin on this anyway. I probably should show you. All right, we're gonna get ready to end right about now. Okay, we're gonna stop right there. I'll do needle up. And I'm gonna, if you'll allow me, I'm gonna do all of these and we'll look at all of them together, okay? We just did 12. Now we're gonna do 13 after that. Yeah, that looks really good. That looks really, really good. I'm becoming less of a skeptic about their 3.6 tension for these decorative patterns. I'm getting a little bit less skeptical. It seems to be working pretty well. I've got a fly that's buzzing me right now. If you hear me swat something, I'm aiming for that fly that's after me. Does anyone else get tormented by insects like they just really like you better than everybody else? They really seem to like me. They seem to like me. Okay, so that's our 12, which you're going to get a glimpse of it. It's really, wow, amazing. This is going to be 13 now that we're doing next. So I'm going to pick 13 next. Oops, I just hit the wrong button. There, I found it again. Thank goodness. All right, this is 13 now. Yeah, 13's a little bit different than 12, but they're close. They're close. All right, let me just move that material. All right, this is going to be stitch 7-13. We just did 7-12. Check my camera angle. How's that look? Yes, it looks good. Okay. I can tell this one I'm going to have to guide just a little bit more. It seems to be pitching it just a little bit, so I'm just going to bump it a little bit. We'll try our best to stay on course. All right, stop right there. This again is going to be 7-13 that we just did. 7-13. And now we'll do 7-14, and then we got one after that. Yeah, that's really a cool one too, isn't it? So these are the two we've done so far. You can see the top stitching is really quite good considering we're using a needle that isn't totally conducive to that. There we go. We're getting a shadow on there again, or is that just my eyes? That's just my eyes. A couple little spots where I think again it's got a default on the tension. Some of these stitches, based on our setup, might need just a little bit more tension than what they gave us. You see a little bit of a loop thing right there going on. Yeah. So on some of these, if I were sewing them all day long, I would probably go outside the lines a little bit and increase that tension just a little bit more to, or decrease it, excuse me, to give us just a little bit more pull. Lock stitching looks good as well. There's our lock stitching on the back. All right, let's do this next one now. 7-14, I think? 7-14, I believe. Yep, 7-14. All right, let's see how we do on this one. 7-14. All right, this is 7-14 now. All right, I got to get this fly. He's really, really buzzing me now. Go away, fly. Ha, 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 ha. All right, not to be weird and gross. You see that on the camera? That's the little guy that was after me right there. Uh-huh. Now he's going to send his uncle after me. You wait. There's his uncle right there. I'm not kidding you. His uncle just showed up. Good gravy. These things are everywhere. It is the season, isn't it? It is the season. All right. So 7-14. And we got one stitch after that to wrap things up. All right, here we go. Slow myself down a little bit as I get nearer to the edge. Now, some of you might be wondering about maintenance on a machine like this. It's not the most user-friendly machine to do maintenance on. So I'm guessing that if I still am working on sewing machines in a couple of years, or maybe even next year, Faye might reach out and say, hey, can you go through it again like you did before? I'd be happy to do that for her, because the machine is not super duper easy to, even to take the throat plate cover off is a little bit more cumbersome, like I was describing in the beginning, than you would want it to be. So I think Brother does a great job in designing machines and making them extraordinary when it comes to what they're able to do creatively. But they don't oftentimes look forward like Janome, another Japanese manufacturer. Janome, when they're looking at designing machines, they also think about doing maintenance on them. They truly do. Isn't that quite spectacular, isn't it? That's 7-14, the one that we just did here. So 7-12, 13, 14. We just have one more to do. But I wish that Brother would be more like Janome in saying, okay, we're going to design a great machine that can do extraordinary things, but we're also going to, there we go. We're also going to make the machine easy to maintain and to service. We want to make it a serviceable machine for the customer, the end user. They shouldn't have to, kind of like a car, they shouldn't have to go to the dealer every time they want to do some DIY maintenance on their own machine. It shouldn't be that difficult. Janome gets that. Some of the other manufacturers get that. I don't know, based on the design of this machine, I don't know that Brother gets that. So that would be my only criticism, is I think they could do a better job in making the machine more accessible from a maintenance standpoint for the customer, and even for the technician, for someone like me that is going to go deep into the machine. Some things I had to do this machine were much more difficult than they needed to be. Much more difficult than they needed to be. Yeah. You guys have such great choice when it comes out to picking up great stitches. And I'm glad we're doing all of them, because I think we would have done a disservice if we had just done 12 or just done 13 or just done 14. They're all really cool. So let's do this now. Let's go ahead and do our last stitch. There's so many more things we could do on this machine, but we just don't have the time, unfortunately. So we'll do our last stitch now, stitch 7-15. And again, I want to thank the owner, Faye, for the privilege and the honor of working on such a cherished machine. It's a machine that means so much to her because of who gave it to her. And I spend the same amount of time, I give the same level of dedication to every single machine. I don't care if it's a $50,000 commercial machine or a fly that I just got again. I don't care if it's a $50,000 commercial machine or a $500 household machine. I'm going to give it the same level of attention, but it just means more knowing that she trusted a machine like this with me. There's a lot of other places she could have potentially gone, and I want to thank her for the opportunity and the privilege of working on such a special machine. And we'll look forward to meeting her again shortly to get this machine back into her hands again. And I also want to thank the audience. Live streams mean so much more when you've got a big audience that is enjoying that machine together. And again, like I said, whenever folks are ready to step out of the shadows and join us in the live chat, that would be super cool, but no pressure. Y'all do what you need to do. And when you're ready, you're ready. Okay. All right, let's do this last stitch. God bless you all. I don't know if I'll have the next machine ready by Tuesday. It's a, what is it? It is, a 1923 Class 15 by Singer. 1923 Class 15. It came all the way from Italy. It came all the way from Italy. The wonderful lady that Susie and I had a chance to meet, Joanna. Joanna is from Italy. This machine has been in her family for generations, and she brought it all the way from Italy. I don't know if she brought it by plane or by boat or whatever, but it's got some issues. We're going to take care of all the issues, and then we'll present this Class 15 from 1923. Y'all want to see it? I think you saw it already, but it's this machine right over here, all the way from Italy. She's quite a looker, isn't she? Isn't she gorgeous? It doesn't look like she doesn't look like she was born in 1923, does she? She doesn't look like she was born in 1923. This family, you can tell, has really protected this machine. They really protected and preserved it nicely. So this will be, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, as they say. This will be our next machine after doing Faye's machine today. If I can get this machine ready by Tuesday, then I'll show it to you on Tuesday. Otherwise, it'll be a week from today. Okay? But I want to thank the leadership team as well. Live streams, premieres, and otherwise would not be possible without the leaders taking such good care of the family. So I'm grateful for each and every one of you. I truly am. And we'll do this last stitch, and then we'll do some more Japanese music to wrap up the live stream. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so this is stitch 7-15, 7-15. Our final stitch on this really, really fabulous. Oh, I didn't even tell you, this machine has a 1.0 amp motor. It has a 1 amp motor. I meant to tell you all that. So it's got a real powerful motor for pretty much anything that it needs to do. All right, here we go. 7-15. 7-15. Maybe I can get some Japanese music going while I'm doing this. Did I remember to change? Hold on a second. You know what I did? I got to pause music. I got so excited about the next machine that we're going to be presenting. I think I forgot to change the stitch pattern. Oops. Ha ha! I forgot to change the stitch pattern. Give me a second here. Daggone it. I bet you I forgot to change the stitch pattern. I did. I'm sewing the same pattern. Oh my goodness gravy. I need to have more coffee and less tea. Okay. This is going to be take 2. It did a good job the second time too. It did. Oh my goodness. That's a little embarrassing, but y'all are used to it by now. I'm doing so many things during a live stream that I'll forget kind of what I'm doing. I'll forget what I'm doing and oh boy. Okay. Hold on a second. Leaping lizards, huh? All right, now we're doing 7-15, and thankfully it still wants the same presser foot. It wants presser foot N. Okay. All right, here we go. The final pattern for real, and a little bit of music in the background. I'll wait on the music. Y'all can listen to the machine instead. It's cooler than the music even. It does such a good job. All right, here we go. 7-15. This one almost looks like a bug to me. It kind of looks like a bug a little bit. See, my subconscious said, I love this 7-14 so much, I'm going to sew it again. You're not buying it, are you? Nope. I just got distracted. Oh, well, that's okay. All right, I'm just going to bump up the speed just a little bit. Great feed system on this machine. I know I've said that several times, but you notice I'm not even touching the material right now. All right, let's slow us down a little bit. All right, let's stop right there. That's a gorgeous pattern, isn't it? Isn't that a lovely pattern? Well, you can't see it. There we go. Now you can see it. A lovely, lovely pattern. So many lovely patterns on this machine. It's kind of just blows you away. I mean, you think you get a taste of it, and you got so many more to try. Just go ahead and clip some threads, and then we'll set these up with a little bit of music to wrap up the live stream. And we'll see you next time. See you next time. There we go. So these are the 7 series machine sew-offs that we just did. And the 7-14, again, I enjoyed so much. I did it twice. This one really, that's really quite spectacular. That one, I love that one a lot. See if I can back the camera up a little bit and kind of show you these. I just turned the camera. I'm getting a shadow that's really annoying. I think that's incredible stitching, don't you? Doesn't this machine, after some workshop magic, just does a spectacular job, doesn't it? That's the one we just did, the 7 dash, whatever I said, 15. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. There's our lock stitching on the back. See that the brother people are remotely controlling this machine, and I bet you they changed it from 3.6 to something higher because we got a beautiful lock stitch as well on that last stitch that we just did. Beautiful lock stitching as well. Wow. Wow. Well, again, thank you to all of you in the audience. Thank you to the owner, Faye, and what a great tribute I hope that this live stream is to her husband's thoughtfulness in giving such a wonderful gift. Such a wonderful gift. I'm just going to put all the sew-offs that we've done on camera off camera as well. So you can be reminded about the greatness of this machine. It really is quite a spectacular machine. And it does a great job. I mean, with utility sewing, with decorative sewing, and it's a shame we couldn't do the embroidery type sewing, but that's okay. You always want to leave the audience wanting more, right? So all of you watching this and getting excited about this machine are saying, I bet you it does even better embroidery than all that other stuff. And yeah, it does a fabulous job, doesn't it? Quite lovely. Quite lovely. Really a cool machine. All right, we'll see you guys again. Let me see if I can get some music on and we'll wrap up this live stream.